Hello, eyes and ears of the world, and welcome back to another episode of Genshin Impact here on Images Gaming, and we're doing another story time. This time, we're going to be talking about Zhongli. This time, for the storylines, I'm going to also talk about this part. So, the voice actor for English voice actor is Keith Silverstein. Zhongli's birthday is 12/31. His affiliation is Liyue Harbor. He is the Geo Archon for Liyue. His gnosis is Geo, constellation Lapis Day. A mysterious expert contracted by the Wangsheng funeral parlor. Extremely knowledgeable in all things, because we all already know who he is. Spoiler alert, he's the Geo Archon. Alright, so let's go to the story. Character details. In Liyue's traditional customs, receiving adepti and sending adepti off are equally important. The Hughes of the Wangsheng funeral parlor, who have been in this business for 77 generations, are the masters of handling funerals. However, Hu Tao, the current owner of the Wangsheng funeral parlor, and I might be saying that wrong, primarily focuses on the art of sending mortals on their way. For the various ceremonies for sending adepti off, Hu Tao usually employs the help of a friend in more or less the same business. That person's name is Zhongli. The adepti have been with Liyue for a millennia, but only a handful have ascended in the past 3,000 years, which means that everything regarding the traditions now only exists in texts. This is not something one could likely witness twice in their entire lifetime. Not even the most particular and learned of researchers or scholars could find one fault in Wangsheng funeral parlor's ceremonies for sending adepti off. Everything must be perfect, from the costumes, the time, the place, the items, the weather, the scheduled length, the size of the permitted audience, to the stature, profession, and age of said audience. Nothing can be overlooked. When folk describe Zhongli as living history, the latter usually only smiles and sighs, "I just have a good memory." Character Story 1. In Liyue, if a person pays a great attention to details and has insuperable criteria by which they judge certain matters, then they are called particular. In truth, everyone is particular about something. Some people hate spicy food, others don't eat fish, and some want their tofu served sweet. But as for Zhongli, he is particular about everything. He attends operas performed by only the most celebrated stars, takes only the most luxuriant thrushes out for walks, and he goes into the kitchen personally to instruct the cooks as to the ratio of shrimp and fish required to make the food authentic full moon egg. Zhongli has experience in all manner of things, from fashion to daily essentials, to fine wines, to delicacies, to teas and spices, and to flora and fauna. He is also more than capable of participating in discussions on commerce, politics, and international relations. But on a typical day, all you will glean from him is a few pieces of useless trivia, because he particularly enjoys sharing these fun riddles with you. Sounds like real life people that are really smart, that like to just to throw out random trivia things that have no purpose whatsoever. Character Story 2. When making a purchase, look to haggle. This is a common understanding among the people of Liyue. No matter what high heavens the store owner praises their product to, no matter its ancient history or classical value, prices are always flexible. Half the stay it costs is a good place to start. But when Zhongli pays up for calls for someone else to pay up for on his behalf, he never looks at the price tag as long as it catches his eye. Zhongli will pay as much as the owner asks. Indeed, he will even buy it all at a premium sometimes. But for some reason, Zhongli always forgets to bring money. For small purchases, he has friends to help him out, and large bills he somehow finds ways to have written off. Kind of funny when he can literally just make more appear in his hands. To those merchants who secretly pride themselves on their powers of flattery, Zhongli is a man of strange proclivities. In truth, he knows a great deal about the value of money and finance, and he also understands the suffering of the people. However, he seems to not understand that poverty is part of the human condition, or perhaps it might be said that he cannot imagine himself being poor. How was such a person not died of hunger yet? Probably because he's the Geo-Arkhan, and he is immortal. Character. Story. 3. There is no way Zhongli can starve. Such concerns as profit and loss are beneath his notice. The 7 nations in the world itself are where his efforts are directed. As for wealth, he is wealth itself. He is Morax, the overlord Rex Lapis, who rules Liyue and the Geo-Arkhan of the 7 Archons. The very money that circulates throughout Tibet, Mora is named after him. When night fails and bustling Liyue begins to slumber, he will sometimes stand atop the towering mountains and gaze upon the city, which he made with his own hands. To the people of Liyue, Rex Lapis has many divine titles. When he laid down Liyue's laws by his divine might, he was the god of contracts. When he minted the first Mora and made Liyue strong by dust of commerce, the merchants revered him as the god of commerce. He has lived through countless years and is eldest of the 7, and so historians call him the god of history. Thousands of years ago, the forebears of the citizens of Liyue Harbor struck stones together to start fires and used piled stones to create stoves. These blessings derived from the Geo element led the Geo-Arkhan to gain the title of the Stove God, which in a recent event they named someone else the Stove God, so you might want to change that. People from other lands tend to call him Morax, though the people of Liyue prefer to use the term Rex Lapis. But in the hearts of lovers of opera and children, Morax's on-stage aspect, the all-conquering defender of Liyue, the warrior god, is the most fascinating. The delicacies that Rex Lapis discovered while lost in the streets, the plagues inscribed with his handwriting, the plaques, not plagues, sorry, inscribed with his handwriting, a famous opera that he once starred in, playing the part of a warrior. Many stories and tales of Liyue are when studied closely, stories of people visited by their deity at some point. And the citizens of Liyue are most proud, indeed, of that history. So, just a side note, Mihoyo, can you, this background, the golden dust looking background is making it hard for me to read the white letters, and the lettering is so small. And with this background, I can't catch half of what I'm trying to read. Character Story 4. As the founder of Liyue Harbor, contracts are the most important thing to Morax. From simple monetary exchange and agreement between merchants to the ancient laws that Morax himself laid down. There is no part of city life untouched by contracts. To merchants, contracts are the most important standard to which they hold themselves. Deadlines, invoices, shipping, destinations, only a refined and strict order can sustain vibrant commerce, which is itself the lifeblood of Liyue Harbor. Thus, the Qijing, you know what that says, punish violators of such laws increasingly, not only to uphold the divine rulings of Morax, but also to allow Liyue to maintain its vitality. Through the millennia, every generation of Liyue Qixing commits to interpreting the law, including I can't read that, subtle amendments to plug loopholes found in the law. Any loopholes that remain misdiscovered are seen by the merchants as permissible if unaddressed, and they make killings off of such holes until they are discovered and patched up by the Liyue Qixing. Amid the game of cat and mouse, the book that collates such amendments has reached a whopping 279 pages thick. The person currently responsible for maintaining this book, the Tingqing Ningguang, is secretly and humorously referred to as the Tailor of Liyue, in honor of her speed in patching these laws up and for her sharpness of eye. But no matter how complicated or tangled moral laws become, one of these stands above all others in the eyes of Rex Lapis. The one who engages on their words... The one who reneges on their words shall suffer the wrath of the Rock! The Rock! Also, I thought we were talking about Zhongli here. Why would we start talking about Ningguang? Character Story 5. Rex Lapis, most ancient of the seven, has lived for too long. Rex Lapis still remembers that moment when the final Archon took their divine seat, thus ending the Archon War and the era of the Warring Gods. The seven were a diverse lot and dispersed far and wide, but they all shouldered the burden of guiding humanity. As time passed, many of the seven's titles changed hands, and only two remained of the first seven, Rex Lapis and the Animal Arkhan. A carefree Barbados. The Animal Arkhan is the second eldest of the seven. When Barbados first came to Liyue, Rex Lapis believed his fellow Archon to have encountered some terrible crisis in pursuit of their duties, thus required his aid. So when Barbados descended in a gust of wind, the Geo Archon had already prepared himself to receive the neighboring deity and lend what help he may. But as he looked, the Animal Arkhan tossed a wine bottle at him. "Here's some wine from Mondstadt. Care for a taste? To forsake one's duty to deliver a single bottle of wine? What a preposterous notion. What a preposterous notion." Yet the Animal Arkhan kept coming to visit, to explore Liyue Harbor. All sorts of strange questions on his lips. The Animal Arkhan's questions knew as little limits as the wine in his hands. From then on, the first 7 would often gather in Liyue. Rex Lapis still remembers how those wines tasted. The world has changed much since then, and all that was once familiar has faded into memory. The 7 seats changed, and again were changed, till 5 of the 7 are at the table were all departed. Nor would the duty of guiding humanity be honored by the new Archons. Even the hardest rocks may be worn down after 3,000 years. Nor would the wind ever return again. One drizzly day, the ancient ruler was struggling about Liyue Harbor and overheard a merchant telling one of his workers, "You've finished your duties. Go ahead and call it a day." Long did he stand amidst the milling crowd. "Have I already finished my duties?" Once again, I thought we were talking about Zhongli. Half of that was about Venti. What? That which rises from the sea. During the Archon Wars, every corner of Tibet was consumed in the fires of conflict. Not only did gods fight amongst themselves, but countless wicked things also sought to expand their domains. One such type of creature caused no end of woe for the Geo Archon, long before the rock that title, along with his place among the 7. I think I read that wrong. Whatever. These foul creatures, straight from the murky depths of the ocean abyss, had a squishy exterior and possessed agile tentacles that would live on even after being cut off, even secreting some thick and revolting fluid in the process. This alone would have been enough to make them the most monstrous of all creatures, and still it was not the pinnacle of their monstrosity. What made them so truly terrible was their small size, which gave them the ability to duck into unimaginably small nooks and crannies. No space was too narrow for them. Neither the wooden boards or tables and chairs, nor the seams of windows and doors and curtain folds, nor even books and brushes. Many a poor soul had on at least one occasion unwittingly outstretched their hand only to quickly retract it in horror with a blood-curdling scream of the sensation of something cold, clammy, and damp, while one or more of these despicable creatures came crawling up their arm, leaving a slimy trail behind them. At the behest of the people of Liyue, Morax agreed to wipe these creatures out. But these parasites upon civilization could not be destroyed like enemies on the battlefield by simply summoning a storm of stone spears that would shatter the earth and churn the soil. Still, he was the god of contracts. His word had to be his bond. So he went through the town from house to house with prisons of stone, seizing the creatures one by one and locking them away for good. This long campaign of pest extermination taught Morax the true meaning of a burden lifted. The grueling campaign itself and the terrible smell of those ocean creatures' secretions left a lasting impression on the deity. Today, even when he goes out incognito as the mortal man Zhongli, Morax gives those living, squirming seafood products a wide berth. Well, except for dishes where said seafood products have been sliced and diced into oblivion, such as seafood tofu, he'll quite happily eat that. At least this one was actually about Zhongli. Gnosis! Once the rite of parting, of which Zhongli was both director and star, was over, the Fatui harbinger named Signora appeared before him. By prior contract, she was here to obtain the Geo Archon Morax's Gnosis. Before the Traveler and the two Fatui Harbingers, Zhongli related the truth that he had established a contract with the Cryo Archon. In his own words, this was his final contract to end all contracts. Yet, no matter how one looks at it, the loss of his divine ability to defend Liyue was too great a price to pay. Even amongst mortals, the basis of contract is equivalent exchange. And for the god of contracts, who must have established countless such agreements in their long years of existence, such an important contract must have come with its benefits. Now the Geo Archon had given away his Gnosis as his part of the deal. Wait, what then must the Cryo Archon have wagered to balance the scales? That is a question. If you think you know what she wagered, put it down in the comments or in the live comments over there. Thanks for watching again. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. And I'll see yous later.